everyone, Silly here. In this video, I'm going to give you an overall guide on how to push with Marauder. This will of course work for both cluster arrow and multishot. So in this video, we're going to cover everything that you need to push higher and higher with this build. That means we're going to cover everything like mob type, how to pull, sentry placements, your cooldowns, pylons, how to kill the rift guardians, everything that you need basically. So let's get into it, shall we? Now the first thing we always want to do is get an open map. This is either a festering or a battlefield. These are by far superior maps where you can get a lot more density and you're able to pull enemies a lot more into smaller areas. So as you can see here, we get an battlefield here, and remember, we don't just go and stand on the first mob we see. It's all about kiting things together and then making bigger and bigger pulls. Now this here is a really good mob type. This is wild swarms. They are very small, they give good progression, and they stack really easily. This is the kind of mob type you want. So basically the mob types that are good would be wild swarms like this, or zombie grotesques, or summoners. Basically things that are easy to kill, that spawn really densely, and that also stack up nicely to get more area damage procs. But as you can see here, we are now kiting things with us. We're not just going to stand and keep killing one mob. We're going to keep moving forward. So when things are dying, we're going to keep moving. We always want to get new fresh mobs, so we don't just stand there and kill one enemy at a time. As you can see with this mob type, we are actually able to keep on par with the progress bar. And that's basically what you want. If you're pushing and you can stay about even with the progress bar by just killing the trash, that's a really good sign that you have a good map and a good mob type. And then all the progression in terms of getting ahead of the progress bar will come from the pylons later on. The very important thing with this build is kiting enemies. This means that while you are killing things, you want to think 2 moves ahead in terms of where am I moving next and how do I get there. So as you can see, I'm kiting things with me slowly. This build is all about doing that. So I'm stutter stepping. I keep vaulting around to get the enemies that I have with me currently ahead to make them come with me, but I'm also looking for new mobs. Now you can see here we come to an intersection. This is a really good place to get things together. You always want to try and pull things into intersections or corners, and in this lucky case we even have a power pylon for it. Now as you can see, I don't just go and click the pylon straight away. I want to kite things with me into this intersection first. So you can see I go down here, I find another blue pack, and then I think to myself, okay, this should be fine. I have a few elites on me. I can't really see anything further in terms of getting more elites. So I'm going to go back to the things I have up here, kite the blue pack with me now, and then see what I can do with this power pylon. So we get everything together like this. We click the power pylon and then we just go to town. I want to try and stay a bit away so I don't just like insta die, because I'm playing hardcore after all. But I also want to make sure that I don't go too far away to the point where I can't see what I'm doing. So the trash dies really quickly and I'm basically just left with the elites at this point. And now it's all about the kiting game. This is where patience is key. I'm going to be kiting these elites with me throughout the entire rest of the map. And it's all about just staying patient and remaining calm. Because there's a lot of affixes here that can one-shot me. But I need these packs with me in case I find another pilot like a Conduit later on. But I need to kill these packs no matter what. This is done by slowly moving, replacing your sentries, and then sometimes going back and forth seeing if things are with you. But this is more a thing you get the feeling of when you are playing the game and the build for a long time. I know for a fact my sentries are still back there where I placed them before, and they're still hitting the elites, and therefore I know I can still move on and the elites will still follow me through the map. Now while all this is happening, there are a few things we want to keep a track of. This is of course something like our focus and restraint, and now reps of clarity. This means we either need to keep a visual awareness of when they are up or down, so making sure we track our buffs just above our spells, or have an internal clock in your head telling you when to click it. I would advise early on to just look in your bar, and then when you have played the build for a long time, you will probably get some kind of indication in your head of when it is time to click your razor fire. We of course also have a few cooldowns. We have our Wolf Companion and our Vengeance Star card. Now if you're still a bit new to the build, you could just spam them and don't really think about when to use them for maximizing your damage output. Like for me here, I had been pushing for 13 hours straight, so I just had a macro spamming both of them. But of course the better thing would be to optimizing them. For instance, using your Vengeance when you know you're about to get hit by a lot of enemies, and of course using your Wolf when you know you're about to do a big ton of damage where you want the damage buff. Now what I'm doing here is I'm trying to get everything together in a nice compacted little area. As you can see, most of the trash are dead. There's just a few elites now. So what I'm trying to do is get everything together here, and I just want to stay far away and just keep killing them, because I need to kill these packs to get the progress from them. And this is only possible because we had these packs with us through the entire map. So this is very crucial to learn how to pull packs with you through the map. Even a pack you find at the entrance of the map, you still need to pull it with you until you can kill it. Now usually you'd want either a power pylon or a conduit to kill the packs for you, but in this case we have had the packs with us for so long that they're actually pretty low, so we can just stand here and finish them off even without a pylon. Now, another thing I want to mention real quick is Stutter Stepping. As you can see, I'm now moving here, but I'm not even actually shooting at the packs. I'm shooting just the ground underneath me. Basically, the sentry is doing all the damage for me, which means I don't really need to focus on where I'm hitting. I can just do what's called Stutter Stepping, which means I can keep moving and still attacking. So the sentries are shooting while I'm just able to move, and by moving like this, I'm able to dodge a lot more attacks than I would not be able to. And I'm doing this by having force move onto my scroll wheel. So I'm scrolling my mouse wheel up and down while I'm then spamming my cluster arrow. This is a pretty useful tip to know because sometimes it is impossible to just stand still and shoot. And it's also really good to know just for kiting mobs with you. Stutter Stepping is a really crucial part of the game as it allows you to do damage and keep on the move at the same time. So at this point, I'm just standing here for a bit, making sure these elites die. I definitely want the progress for them since they are fairly low. And now they're dead, and now it's just a matter of picking up the globes and then moving on. Now a quick note, so far at this point in the rift, it does not look that great. I'm only hit by a little bit, so I either need to get a really good follow-up, i.e. another festering or another battlefield, or I still need to find a really good conduit. And of course, by a good conduit, I mean a conduit where I can kill at least 4 elites on it. It is actually possible to kill up to 6 to 7 elites with one single conduit. 3 to 4 is usually good enough. So we go next floor, and I immediately see we have a pretty bad map. But we do actually see the conduit just in the corner here. Now at this point, I do actually pause the game. Make sure to always do that when you go to a new map just to see what's going on. So I go down to the conduit. I don't click it immediately. I want to make sure I get packs over to the conduit first. I see I have a blue ghost, which is actually a pretty decent pack here, because I can get them over to the conduit quite easily. Now again, I still don't click it yet. I want to make sure that all the trash around them are dead because I don't want to waste the conduit saps on trash. I can easily kill this trash just by myself, and then I'll get a lot more value from the conduit, so I can then kill the blue and also the elite that then spawns from that conduit. So it is 100% worth it always like this to just stand there for 10-15 seconds, whatever it takes, to just kill the trash around it. I now see we're pretty close to having enough killed, so I try and go in and click the conduit, so I can then kill the new pack that spawns with it, and of course also our current ghost pack. So click the conduit. Now it's just all about staying alive. I don't really care about my damage right now. I just want to stay alive and then also stay, of course, close enough to the 2 packs we have to kill them. And the blue is now dead, and now it's just about killing the last guy here with the conduit saps. Now I still have about 30 seconds or so left of the conduit, so I immediately rush forward to try and see if I can find more elites. And as you can see, I find another pylon here at channeling. I immediately click it because I want to get the elite out here, so I can start sapping it with the conduit. And we have just about 30 seconds left of the conduit, so if I get all the saps on the elite, it should hopefully die. And the good thing is we also do actually find another pack here. We find a blue summon, which is a decent pack here, but it's a very dangerous spot. As you can see, there are tons of damage here, so I'm just all about trying to stay alive. I'm not really worried about my damage. It's all about just keeping the conduit going, sapping especially the elite guy, and the blues will also die. Now at this point, it is looking pretty well. We have a pretty big lead, and we only need to find a few more percent to get the boss out. Now this is a pretty good example of how to do this. As you can see, I have everything stacked in the middle, and now all I'm doing is just walking around in a circle. I want to make sure everything stays wide in the middle, which means that they keep following me out, and therefore I keep moving in a circle around them so that they stay put in the middle. This is also a pretty good strategy because these are impalers, which are ranged mobs, and I definitely do not want to stand still and just let them all throw spears at me at the same time. Now you can see our boss here was Hamelin, which is also a pretty good boss. In terms of Rift Guardian bosses, there are a few you want. So either you want a really good area damage boss, which is hammering like this, or you want a single target boss like Tetris. Basically, either full damage AoE from Hamelin or is completely single target boss. All the bosses that spawn just a couple of adds every like 30 seconds or so are really bad because they're not going to give you enough area damage, and they're going to ruin your stricken stack. So at this point, it is all about just making sure we kill this guy. Now with guns are pretty easy on this build. You just want to stay far away and just have your sentries go to town on him. And remember, it doesn't matter where your sentries are placed in terms of the damage. So I usually just try and stake at least one of them underneath the boss so I can proc my Bane of the Trap from the slow from it. So to recap from all we have learned, we want to make big pulls. We want to make sure things come together either in an intersection or a corner. Don't just go and stand on the first pack you find. Try and kite that pack with you and find either more trash or more packs further in the rift. You then want to start grouping it up. Fine to take 10 seconds or so while you're doing no damage, but to then be able to do a pull that is twice as big, it's going to allow you to do a lot more damage because of area damage. Area damage is the #1 damage source when you're pushing, so you definitely want to make sure you take advantage of that by stacking a ton of mobs on top of each other. We of course want to keep our buffs up. This means we want to use our Wasted Fire every 4 to 5 seconds to keep our Focus Restraint and our Wraps of Clarity going at all times. Try and use Oculus Rings as much as possible when they spawn. As you can see, I'm in 1 right now, and it is buffing my damage by a lot. Either take mental notes or record your own gameplay so you can see what works for you. This either what kind of mobs type do you like, what pylons do you like. But I usually recommend this either recording yourself while you're playing or just slowly trying to figure out what works and what doesn't work for you. Another important thing to remember is if you can stay even with the progress bar while just killing trash, that's a really good sign. And then all the progress in terms of getting ahead of the bar will be done with pylons. But the most important aspect for this build and pushing in general is experience. You just need to get down and dirty with it. It's gonna take a while, it's gonna be tough, it's gonna be challenging, but you just need to play a lot. Don't get discouraged, and remember that RNG is massive in this game, so sometimes it could take you 1 key to clear, let's say, a 140, but then it might take 100 keys to clear a 141. This 150 here took me over 700 keys to get, so don't be discouraged even if you go into a GR and it seems impossible. It is doable, you just need to find a better riff where you can then complete it on. But if you take all the advice I just gave you now, you should have a much better time when you start pushing again. So take all this advice here, store it in your brain, and then start using that for when you are pushing, and then slowly try and remember all the key pieces that I mentioned. And at that point, you just need a ton of practice. Now, if you want to find my entire build I was using for pushing, I'll leave a link down below. But in terms of the gear, let's just quickly go over it so you can see what stats are important. So the number one stat, of course, for pushing is arrow damage. I have arrow damage on my weapon. I have it on my quiver. I have it basically anywhere where I can get it without losing a ton of damage. I also have a restraint here with attack speed, crit. Of course, if I could have something better than attack speed here, like more arrow damage or flat damage roll, that would be better. For the gloves, I have the crit dexterity and arrow damage. For the shoulders, I have arrow damage, resource cost, and sentry damage. And the helmet, I have dexterity, crit chance, and cluster arrow. And then for the Sliver of Terror, I'm using the one where if you have 3 or more skills on cooldown, you get 50% more damage with fire spells, which is really nice for our cluster arrow damage here. For the chest piece, I had dexterity, resistance, and sentry damage. Of course, playing with Captain Crimsons, and our build here, we have just full on defensive stats. So dexterity, vitality, always life percent. For the belt, dexterity, vitality, and if you can get here always, that would be even better than my armor here. For the boots, get dexterity, resistance, and cluster arrow. For the skirts, I had a fire cooldown and crit damage, but of course the better scenario would be fire, crit. On my Rise of Clarity, I had fire damage and I had crit chance. And of course, you also want to make sure you have a high secondary, as this is one of your only really good toughness increases. There'll be a full link to the gear down below. If you have any questions about how to push or the gear, anything I didn't clarify well enough, make sure to post it in comments down below, and I'll be more than happy to help you out. Make sure to check out the playlist here for even more Diablo guides, and I'll see you there. Peace out, everyone.